I yearn for more response from the White House. This president knows better than most what happens in poor communities that have been, antagonized historically by the hostile relationship between black people and the police department. It is not enough for him to come on national television and pretend that there's a false moral equivalency between police people who are armed and black people who are vulnerable constantly to this. He needs to use his bully pulpit to step up and to articulate this as a vision, not necessarily in terms of public policy alone, because Eric Holder is doing a tremendous job in filling in those gaps. But we need presidential leadership. He needs to step up to the plate and be responsible. The president is always cool under fire, usually by bigoted racists who are assaulting him from various plates along the ideological spectrum. What I'm talking about, though, is leadership. That's not simply a matter of tone, because the reality is there is no functional equivalence between police people who are armed to the teeth with military-grade weaponry, trained at vulnerable black communities who are inflamed now as a result of decades of negligence. The president has a responsibility to say, look, this is one of the key points we expect of him because of his unique experience. As an African-American male, I know what it means to not have an autopsy report released. I know what it means to have a young man besmirched posthumously with no relationship that we can tell between what that was about on that camera and how he died. And I'm saying to you that if he could inform American society that, look, yes, we must keep the law. Yes, we must keep the peace. People must calm their passion. But let me explain to you why people might be hurt, why they might be angry, and why they might be upset. That's his responsibility to tell that truth, regardless of what those political fallouts will be.
I guess the facts of what they're doing to me, the FBI agents, the investigation, the second autopsy, speak even more loudly than anything the president might be able to say.
No, it's not either or. The president can do, look at LBJ. Look at, for God's sake, look at even what Nixon did vis-a-vis affirmative action, but look at what John F. Kennedy did. Look at what Bill Clinton did. No, there's not an either or. You can deploy political strategies and public policies, and at the same time, we need his leadership, his vision, his unique style. He's an oratorical genius. Deploy that in defense of the people from whom he learned that oratorical genius, and to defend those vulnerable populations, especially white people whose white privilege, in one sense, obscures from them what it means that their children can walk home every day and be safe. They're not fearful of the fact that somebody will kill their child who goes to get some iced tea and some candy from a store. Until that quality is brought, the president bears a unique responsibility and burden to tell that truth.
And there you have it, Eric Dyson. You hear the statement what he made? That, white people can walk home from school and not ever be accosted by police officers. And that's part of the conundrum, to use a big word, that we have to deal with. And that's part of the difficulties that I face, that I worry about now. I mean, I'm not going to worry about it for too long, but it gets even more scary if I see a police car behind me. It gets more scary because I don't know if he's going straight or if he happens to be just going in my direction. If I make a right turn and he makes a right turn too, should I just pull over and stop?
Yeah, and if you pull over and stop, are you looking suspicious?
Right. I might be suspicious. If I keep going, is he running my plates just to see what's going on? But here is Michelle Alexander gives a fascinating analysis on how white privilege allows criminals to go unpunished.
State University and the author of The New Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration and the Age of Colorblindness. One of the things I find most fascinating in my conversations with white people about the drug war is their insistence that those who are doing time did the crime. So what's the problem? And then I'll say, well, did you ever drink underage? When you were in high school, did you ever drink underage? Did you ever experiment with marijuana? And then very frequently you find people shifting their seat, getting uncomfortable. And this idea that of innocence, that other people are the criminals but not them, is a thoroughly racialized idea. I often point out we're all criminals. We've all made mistakes in our lives. We've all done wrong. Anyone who's an adult has broken the law at some point in their lives. But some of us have the privilege of making certain kinds of mistakes and going on to college or grad school and off to work and never having to check that box on employment applications, while others of us do not. In fact, research shows that a white man with a criminal record is more likely to be hired than a black man without a criminal record. So even this system of mass incarceration, when white folks are ensnared by it, doesn't affect them in the same way. When they're branded criminals and felons, they're not viewed as criminals and felons in the outside world. But that felon label, that criminal label, serves to define who black people are. And in fact, even if you haven't been branded a criminal or felon, you are treated as though there is something about you that is wrong by employers and in the world more broadly. So part of what white privilege is to me is the freedom to make mistakes and go on. That is a privilege that poor folks of color in this country, particularly young people, don't have.
Hi.
Yeah, that's deep, man. Michelle Alexander gives a fascinating analysis on how white privileges allow criminals to go unpunished. Keeping it real. Just keeping it real, man. I have never been saddened that much in my life since I've been living in the United States of America, like I was today. I have really and truly never been saddened, even to the fact where I was thinking to myself, you know what, man, I need to go take a drink. I'm serious.
Well, you know what I thought about that today? I'm like, no wonder people anesthetize themselves. There's so much drinking or cheap smoking or any of that other stuff, because it just seems kind of.
Because sometimes you're like, you're not looking for an outlet, but I mean.
You just look to numb some of that, but I guess you probably never even had anything.
It's just so much. It's just so much, man. And you know what? It's like it's every single day. Every single day there's something happening. Well, and even though it's not happening to you, mentally, it's happening to you. It has a mental effect on you. And then you know what makes it worse? What makes it worse is when you have people like Charles Barkley coming out and making those silly statements. No, I'm not going to get over. As a matter of fact, here we have. But Marjorie, you see, Marjorie, you missing the point.
I understand your point.
The point is that, Marjorie, when he has an audience. And when you come up with that type of crap to the audience, what the other people are looking and say, you see, Charles Barkley, if Charles Barkley can call him a scumbag, right? If Charles Barkley can call them a scumbag, why can we call them thugs? He called them scumbags. You're going to see but Charles called him a scumbag. Why can we call them thugs? Or they're going to say, you know what? What's the difference between what Charles Barkley called them and we calling them thugs? What's the difference? Oh, you want to just get on our case? Get on Charles Barkley case too.
Well, I mean, that's the same as them saying, well, what difference does it make if police kill you when you kill yourself? I mean, but that's not the argument. And, he's not the point.
But no, that's
I understand that upsets you.
No, but that's the argument that they are going to make. if you can make a comparison between
What was the they?
the media.
This is the argument the media is going to make? Or the
Yes.
watching
Because,
the media?
okay. We are saying that, I'm saying that the media said that the new N-word is thugs. Instead of calling you the N-word, they call you thugs. Right? A black man by the name of Charles Barkley called the black rioters and looters in Ferguson scumbags. He called them scumbags. Right? The media can come out and say, listen, if the white media calls you a thug, you can't be upset because Charles Barkley called you guys scumbags.
I wouldn't give Charles Barkley all that credit.
But you see, Marjorie,
I understand your point, Anthony.
but you can't say you can't give him credit. You don't have to give him credit. The media is going to give him credit. And then all those people that are listening going to listen to what the media has to say. I'm going to say, look, Charles said it. Charles said it. Right? But here is another ex-NBA player. He calls out Charles Barkley in the Ferguson case. This is a guy named Ethan Thomas. As a matter of fact, I think he attended Syracuse University. Ethan Thomas played 9 seasons in the NBA, but he was always far more than a basketball player. He was an advocate for kids, a poet, a thinker, a smart, conscious man. Thomas authored the 2013 book, Fatherhood, Rising to the Ultimate Challenge. When he read about Charles Barkley's support of the Ferguson grand jury decision to not indict Officer Darren Wilson in the death of Michael Brown, he was disturbed enough to write this open letter to the Hall of Famer in thenation.com. Right? And here it is. Let me say first that you are among the basketball greats. And you see, this guy is intelligent. You know why? Why, Marjorie? Whenever you have, and I told you this. Whenever you have to tell someone negative, never start off with a negative. Start off with a positive. So right away, this guy already got credibility. So let me say that first, you are amongst the basketball greats. I remember rooting for you in '93 championship series against the Bull, along with one of my hometown heroes, Richard Dumas. You have achieved a level of success on the court that will be cemented in the basketball history books permanently. 11 NBA All-Star Game appearances, 2 All-Star MVP, once voted NBA MVP, one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history, Dream Team, 2 times inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. You are basketball royalty. Man, listen, this guy, right? I don't even have to read anymore. But this guy, if you want a role model, here is a role model. This is an intelligent brother who played in NBA for 10 years, excuse me. Your book, Who is Afraid of a Large Black Man, is sitting on my bookshelf right now. He wrote that book. Charles Barkley wrote a book, Who is Afraid of a Large Black Man. It's sitting on my bookshelf right now. It's a powerful book that takes on the issue of race and racism in a way that many would have shied away from. Racism, you said, is the biggest cancer of my lifetime. Whoa. Something happened to Charles Barkley. I did not know he wrote this book. Seriously, I did not. This is what Charles Barkley is saying. Racism is the biggest cancer of my lifetime. So, maybe not anymore.
Well, I mean, first of all, Anselm, I appreciate your investigation into Charles Barkley. I don't really think that to me right now, he's a non-issue. Sure, he's been played and had to deal with racism.
You see, Marjorie?
Especially, can I finish my point as a big black man? I am sure of that. And Charles Barkley They think A, about something in April, and B, something totally different in